So how did you find out about the travel ban?
I was literally in the car on the way to the airport. My husband calls me and he says, it looks like President Trump has issued some sort of travel ban.
Isn't there usually some review process first?
That's the way government's supposed to work,
Right.
yeah. By Monday morning, I was told that we would have to take a position on the constitutionality of the travel ban the next morning. So we convened everybody in my conference room and spent a very long time in there talking through what the challenges were, what the White House position was in terms of the scope of the travel ban. I happen to believe no litigant should go into court and make an argument that's not grounded in truth. But the Department of Justice, I mean, if DOJ stands for anything, it's supposed to stand for what is true and what is just. And I thought back to my confirmation hearing.
Oh, yeah?
There were some senators, including Senator Sessions, who they were all over me at my confirmation hearing about what I would do if the president asked me to do something that was unlawful or wrong. And I think Senator Sessions said, even if it's just something that would bring disrepute to the Department of Justice, you're going to be asked to do that, and will you say no? And they were right about that. It wasn't my responsibility in that position, I think, to resign. I think it was my responsibility to say no.
And then what happened?
I was fired.
You were fired by Donald Trump before it was fashionable to be fired by Donald Trump. So how were you fired?
They delivered a letter they apparently tried to do it by email, but it bounced back. I was like, I had the sandbags up. I wasn't taking it. No, but I think
and
they just had the email.
That was January 30th that
Right.
you were fired.
Right, yeah.
Did that surprise you?
Look, I certainly recognized there was a very real possibility, I would say probability, that I would be fired in this context. But I will also say, and maybe this is just incredibly naive on my part, I hoped that maybe there was a chance that by doing this, that would cause them to step back and take a breath and look at what they were doing and okay, I know.
Everybody's
right, so you guys
laughing.
think I know. Yeah.
It's impolite to laugh at the former Attorney General of the United States.
It seems kind of silly now, doesn't it? But, I did harbor this hope that maybe they would step back. They would have the kind of process. They would get the kind of input. There would be real discussion about this. Because as much as I was comfortable then, I'm comfortable now with the decision that I made. I had spent 27 years at the Department of Justice. I loved that place. I did not want to have the period on my service there being fired.
And what about the role of Rod Rosenstein?
Look, I know everybody for a while was so focused on making sure that we protect Robert Mueller. And goodness knows, I think we need to protect Bob Mueller. But it's equally as important to protect Rod Rosenstein right now because he really has control over what ultimately happens in this investigation. Mueller has to come to Rosenstein to approve any significant steps. And it certainly includes any kind of report to Congress that might be done at the end of this probe. And
so you could have a Deputy Attorney General who receives the report and says, thank you very much, puts it in a drawer, and that's the end of the story. That's why the firing of Rosenstein, if it happens, is so potentially significant.
And particularly depending upon who would replace him. And there's really no reason to be firing Rod Rosenstein other than that.
Do you think he's going to fire Rosenstein?
Far be it from me to get in Donald Trump's head.
Yeah.
This is, I couldn't begin to predict that. It's kind of hard to know. It's whatever I think he thinks will be best for him.